Brian Davis, Home Improved Man. I'm going to take you through a few tips that might be helpful if you're ever going about tiling a wall. Um, it's more or less the same as tiling any place, but there's a few times that you might need something special. The first thing I want to address is I have these floating shelf rods, and I mounted them to the wall before I put in the tile. So as you can see here, I've got two for one shelf, two for another shelf. I put them on the wall before the tile because drilling into tile is difficult. And more importantly, I want to make sure that I hit the stud. And so I know right now that they're in the stud. And I also will have to make sure then as I'm tiling this wall that I'm going to cut around the outside of that because it'll push the tile out. And so I'll make a small cut, but I think that cutting the tile is easier than drilling through the tile to mount this and then wondering whether I hit the stud or not. The other thing I did is I added these strings, and the purpose to them is so that you don't hit your head when you're doing the work here. More important with this one, because this one is actually, as you can see, head height. It won't solve all the problems. I should probably put a little bit of foam or something on the end of it as well. I am particularly susceptible to head banging, not only because I'm slightly clumsy, but also because I don't have hair, and so when I hit my head, it's more likely to bleed. So the string is that the idea is that if I'm below it and I am coming up, I'm going to feel the string on my head before I get here, hopefully. It doesn't always work out that way. The next tip is particularly important to older homes. Homes settle. They change shape slightly. In this particular building here, I've got a pretty dramatic slope on the floor. If I were to measure the height of the tile wall off of the floor, then the tile wall will be parallel to the floor, but it'll be at an angle. And I'm going to eventually match a countertop to the tile, and I want the countertop to be exactly horizontal so that when I put an onion on that countertop, it's not going to go rolling away. So regardless of the shape of the floor or the ceiling, I want this tile wall to be perfectly horizontal and then the countertop to be perfectly horizontal as well. In most situations, you're going to put the countertop in first and then match the backsplash, the tile wall, to that countertop. This situation is slightly different. But what's important here is that I need a horizontal line from which to start the tile. I'm going to start at the bottom and then work my way up, and I want to make sure that I have a horizontal line to start from. So what I've done is I've snapped a chalk line. This blue line here is exactly horizontal using a level. In my case, I used a laser level, but you don't have to have a laser level in order to do it. But you want to have a line from which you can start setting the tile and knowing that it's going to be straight. When you have that countertop, it's easy. Someone's already determined that for you, assuming that they have made that countertop horizontal. Now, understand that because this line doesn't match the floor, I'm not even sure if it matches the ceiling or not. I'll find out once I get up there, but there is the possibility that I could have an angled line where the tile meets the ceiling. And that's just the nature of old homes. You want to avoid that, knock down your home and build from scratch. Now, when I come to put the tile, the starting row on the bottom, when you have a countertop, you can sit it directly on top of the countertop. I don't have that. Let me show you how I'm going to address that issue. What I've done is placed a 2x4 or a couple pieces of 2x4 across the line that I can now rest the tile on top of as it's drying. Having that base for it to sit upon is really important so that it's not going to shift, sag, or drop. All the other tile will be placed on top of it, each one progressively sitting onto the next course, eventually all that weight ending up on the 2x4. The adhesive, the mastic dries fairly quickly, but for a little bit of time, you need to have some sort of bracing or support. Notice that it doesn't go all the way across, but there's no gap larger than the tile. And there's also no way for the tile to drop down into it, because even if it's overhanging, the gap is smaller than half of the tile. I specifically set that bottom line so that I can get a full course of tile, a full row of tile, below the outlet boxes. So I won't have to cut that first row. The second row I will have to cut. It will be the bottom portion. So 2 cuts will get me there, unless of course I end up with the box in the middle of a tile, in which case 3 cuts. I hope you found this video helpful. Feel free to like it, subscribe to the channel, share the video with your best friends and close family members, and thank you for watching.